A Chronological Bible in 365 episodes. This is episode 104, continuing in 1 Samuel 17 and also including Psalm 59. Then David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine."
And Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war for his youth."
But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock,
I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and stuck and killed it."
Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God.
Moreover, David said, "The Lord has delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear. He will deliver me from the hand of the Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you."
So Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head. He also clothed him with a coat of mail.
David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, "I cannot walk in these, for I have not tested them." So David took them off.
Then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
So the Philistine came and began drawing near David, and the man who bore the shield went before him.
And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and good-looking.
So the Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods.
And the Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field."
Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied.
This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel.
Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands."
So it was, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hastened and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine.
Then David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone, and he slung it and struck the Philistine in his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the earth.
So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in the hand of David.
Therefore David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword and drew it out of its sheath and killed him, and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled.
Now the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell all along the road to Shaaraim, even as far as Gath and Ekron.
Then the children of Israel returned to chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their tents.
And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent.
When Saul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the armor, "Abner, whose son is this youth?" And Abner said, "As your soul lives, O king, I do not know."
So the king said, "Inquire whose son this young man is."
Then, as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand.
And Saul said to him, "Whose son are you, young man?" So David answered, "I am the son of your servant Jesse the Bethlehemite."
Now, when he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul.
Saul took him that day and would not let him go home to his father's house any more.
Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul.
And Jonathan took off the robe that was on him and gave it to David, with his armor, even to his sword and his bow and his belt.
So David went out wherever Saul sent him and behaved wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants.
Now it happened, as they were coming home, when David was returning from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women had come out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with joy, and with musical instruments.
So the women sang as they danced and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s.
Then Saul was very angry, and the sayings displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed only thousands. Now what more can he have but the kingdom?
So Saul eyed David from that day forward.
And it happened on the next day that the distressing spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied inside the house. So David played music with his hand, as at other times, but there was a spear in Saul's hand.
And Saul cast the spear, for he said, I will pin David to the wall. But David escaped his presence twice.
Now Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, but had departed from Saul.
Therefore Saul removed him from his presence, and made him a captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people.
And David behaved wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him.
Therefore when Saul saw that he behaved very wisely, he was afraid of him.
But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them.
Then Saul said to David, Here is my oldest daughter, Merab. I will give her to you as a wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, Let my hand not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him.
So David said to Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king?
But it happened at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel, the Meholithite, as a wife.
Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him.
So Saul said, I will give her to him, and she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David a second time, You shall be my son-in-law today.
And Saul commanded his servants, Communicate with David secretly, and say, Look, the king has delight in you, and all his servants love you. Now therefore become the king's son-in-law.
So Saul's servants spoke those words in the hearing of David, and David said, Does it seem to you a light thing to be the king's son-in-law, seeing I am poor and lightly esteemed man?
And the servants of Saul told him, saying, In this manner David spoke.
Then Saul said, Thus you shall say to David, The king does not desire any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to take vengeance on the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines.
So when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to become the king's son-in-law. Now the days had not expired.
Therefore David arose and went, he and his men, and killed 200 men of the Philistines. And David brought their foreskins, and then gave them in full count to the king. Then he might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, as a wife.
Thus Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him.
And Saul was still more afraid of David, so Saul became David's enemy continually.
Then the princes of the Philistines went out to war, and so it was, whenever they went out, that David behaved more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name became highly esteemed.
Now Saul spoke to Jonathan his son and to all his servants, that they should kill David.
But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted greatly in David. So Jonathan told David, saying, My father Saul seeks to kill you. Therefore, please be on your guard until morning, and stay in a secret place and hide.
And I'll go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak with my father about you. Then what I observe, I will tell you. Thus
Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul his father, and said to him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he has not sinned against you, and because his works have been very good toward you.
For he took his life in his hands and killed the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great deliverance for all of Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then will you sin against innocent blood to kill David without a cause?
So Saul heeded the voice of Jonathan, and Saul swore, As the Lord lives, he shall not be killed.
Then Jonathan called David, and Jonathan told him all these things. So Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past.
And there was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and struck them with a mighty blow, and they fled from him.
Now the distressing spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing music with his hand.
Then Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he slipped away from Saul's presence, and he drove the spear into the wall. So David fled and escaped that night.
Saul also sent messengers to David's house to watch him and kill him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed.
So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped.
And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, put a cover of goat's hair for his head, and covered it with clothes.
So when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, He is sick.
Then Saul sent the messengers back to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him.
And when the messengers had come in, there was the image in the bed with a cover of goat's hair for his head.
Then Saul said to Michal, Why have you deceived me like this, and sent my enemy away so that he has escaped? And Michal answered Saul, He said to me, Let me go, why should I kill you?
So David fled and escaped, and went to Samuel at Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and stayed in Naioth.
Now it was told Saul, saying, Take note, David is at Naioth in Ramah.
Then Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the group of prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as leader over them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied.
And when Saul was told, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. Then Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also.
Then he also went to Ramah, and came to the great well that is at Secu. So he asked and said, Where are Samuel and David? And someone said, Indeed, they are at Naioth in Ramah.
So he went there to Naioth in Ramah. Then the Spirit of God was upon him also, and he went on and prophesied until he came to Naioth in Ramah.
And he also stripped off his clothes, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Therefore they say, Is Saul also among the prophets?
Continuing in Psalm 59, to the chief musician set to the Do Not Destroy, a michtam of David when Saul sent men, and they watched the house in order to kill him. Deliver me from mine enemies, O my God. Defend me from those who rise up against me.
Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from bloodthirsty men.
For look, they lie in wait for my life. The mighty gather against me, not for my transgression, nor for my sin, O Lord.
They run and prepare themselves through no fault of mine. Awake to help me, and behold.
You therefore, O Lord God of hosts, the God of Israel, awake to punish all the nations. Do not be merciful to any wicked transgressors. Selah.
At evening they return, they growl like a dog, and go all around the city.
Indeed, they belch with their mouths, swords are in their lips, for they say, Who hears?
But you, O Lord, shall laugh at them. You shall have all the nations in derision.
I will wait for you, O you his strength, for God is my defense.
My God of mercy shall come to meet me. God shall let me see my desire on my enemies.
Do not slay them, lest my people forget. Scatter them by your power, and bring them down, O Lord our shield.
For the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them even be taken in their pride, and for the cursing and lying which they speak.
Consume them in wrath, consume them, that they may not be. and let them know that God rules in Jacob to the ends of the earth. Selah.
And at evening they return. They growl like a dog and go all around the city.
They wander up and down for food and howl if they are not satisfied.
But I will sing of your power. Yes, I will sing aloud of your mercy in the morning. For you have been my defense and refuge in the day of my trouble.
To you, O my strength, I will sing praises. For God is my defense, my God of mercy.